Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Gabe Mendez. Today is May 29th, 10 a.m., and we're doing a talk on mindset. So today we're going to be talking heavily about the characteristics of a top performing agent, the things that you need to know. And I'm going to dive in first with, I'm going to go ahead and dive in first by sharing my screen with all of you. And then share, babe, I need your help and let me know if you guys can see this. Do you see the sidebar or do you only see the presentation? Okay. There we go. No cheating. Okay. So characteristics of a top performing agent. So like I was mentioning it a moment ago, the last couple of years, the team and I've averaged about 100 units here in San Diego. 100, I think it was my personal production plus the teams in 2020 was 70 or 65. 2001 was 103. 2022 was like 92 or 91 or something. And then last year, I think we got to like 95. So we're averaging around that 90 to 100 unit with a very small team to begin with. My personal production is about 40 to 60 units per month, per year. I average about 3 to 5 closings per month. Most of my deals are listings at this point in my career, but it didn't start off that way. And early in my career, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this for a quick second. Early in my career, what I can tell you is this. I had to develop a mindset early off in my career to make sure that I had something that could withstand the negative force of life that happens all the time. In 2015 was the first year that I got into real estate full time. It's not when I got my license. I got my license in 2013, but I strongly believe there's two dates in every real estate agent's life. It's the date you get your license, and it's the day you finally figure out why you're doing what you're doing. See, when you can attach that why to what you're doing, it makes everything worth it. It makes the grind worth it. It makes the hard work worth it. It makes all of these things that you're going through worth it. And so I had to define what that why was in 2015. Got my license in 2013. The reason I got my license, just for those who don't know, and again, this is going to tie for you. This is what I want all of you to do is I want you to find yourself in this story. Find yourself in what I'm getting ready to share with you. Find yourself in the story and pull out from those things. And in a moment, we'll get into the characteristics of things that I've documented over the last 10 years that I've seen separate the best agents from the ones who just want to play in the playground. It's going to separate the top producers from the ones who just want to be part of the lifestyle. And I'll share those characteristics with you in a moment. 2013, when I got in the real estate space, I was asked to be an assistant to a top producing team here in San Diego. I had no knowing history of real estate. I never had a desire. I didn't grow up one day and say, oh, I want to be a real estate agent one day when I grow up. It was never in my forefront. I worked in the Department of Corrections. My path was supposed to be a correctional officer. It was supposed to be CHP. I was supposed to be PD. I signed up for the background. I signed up for the, what do they call it? Academy. I did all that until I broke my ankle. And then I was bedridden for 6 months. I got laid off from the Department of Corrections because Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor at that time. I developed a small opioid addiction during the time I broke my ankle with Percocets. It was a very dark time in transition. And then finally, someone introduced me to multi-level marketing. And that was a really good time in my life. But that was only the evening time. Multi-level marketing, you're standing in front of people, you're giving presentations, you're selling products to people, and you're recruiting people into your organization. And that was a fun time from 2012 to 2014 for 2 years. And we built a big business. But most of my activity was at night, where you're standing in front of rooms and you're giving presentations. And that's how that started. But then there was a friend of mine who said, hey, you're doing a great job selling these shakes. You're doing a really great job recruiting people, but you're not doing anything during the day. Why don't you come be my assistant in real estate, and I'll pay you $500 per file. So at that time, I started doing the money math. I'm like, oh, if I get $4,000 a month from my shake business and I make $500 per file over here with the real estate business, I can probably make $5,000 to $6,000 per month just hustling 12, 15 hours a day. And that's what I did. And then within 6 months, I realized, number one, this guy's making a lot of money off my efforts. But number two, I realized that this team's clients that I was working with, he ended up, most of his clients were always upset. So every time I called him, every time I reached out to his clients to get something signed or to pick something up, his clients were always crying. And so one day I finally asked him, dude, why are your clients always upset? Like, do you suck at your job or what's going on here? He pulled me aside and he told me that these people were losing their homes. And this was due to predatory lending back in 2002, 3, 4, 5, during that era. And when he told me that story and he told me how it happened and he told me that these people are losing their homes and have nowhere to go, it was a flashback moment for me, because the same thing happened to my family. The same thing happened to my mother. And so it was a whole full circle moment where here I am collecting $500 off the back of people who were losing their home. Yet I did the same exact thing. I lost my home, but there was no one to save me. There was no one to save my mother. And I didn't carry the load. My mother did. And looking back at it as an adult now, looking at my mother, I don't know if I would be able to sustain that level of weight, to have sheriffs knocking at your door, eviction notices, signs in your front yard. I don't know at this age if I would be able to look at my 2 children and my wife and say, we have to pack everything up. It's time to go. I don't know if I could do that. And so I commend my mom for what she did, but I was also very angry. I went home and her and I had got into a big fight because I said, hey, we ended up losing our home 8 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever that was. But you didn't tell me what you were going through. I could have gotten a job. I could have worked twice as hard, but instead you let me be this high schooler. You let me be this teenager, go out, and I was going to TJ and I was partying and I was having fun, oblivious to what was happening. And I could have did something, and I didn't. So her and I fought. And she finally told me that, it's a parent's responsibility to protect their children. And she did the right thing, in my opinion. She didn't let us see that. I didn't feel it. I didn't live with that weight, and I was able to spread my wings and fly. So shout out to mom. So 2013, I find out everyone's losing their property, and I'm really upset because I did. So I asked, what can we do about this? So I ended up getting my license in 2013. It was a very challenging time. And this is where I learned lesson number 1, which is where you have to have mentorship in business. And for all of you right now who are out there listening, I want you to take notes on this, because I'm going to tell you what it is you need to do, how you need to shift if you want to excel in business. The last 4 years in business, from 2020 to 2023, I have not earned less than $750,000 in commission in real estate sales. I have not earned less than that. One of those years I made 1.3. The other year I made 900,000. We're qualified right now, my wife and I, to purchase a $2 million home in San Diego. Like, we're living what we're practicing here. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because I want you guys to take away the things that we're teaching you. Thank you, Maggie. And so the first thing that I learned in 2013, when I went full-time into real estate, 2014, I jumped in. This was the year that 2013 was the year that, who remembers this movie? This one right here, who remembers that? That was the movie. What was the title of the movie? Someone drop it down or open your mic. What is it? Wolf of Wall Street. Yes. Maggie says one of my favorites. Christy, yes. Wolf of Wall Street. Amber says Wolf of Wall Street. 2013 was the time around this movie came out. And and for me, that was life. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. He's handsome. He's wearing a suit. He's balling. He has a limo driver. He's throwing away $100 bills in the trash can. And there's some things that are obnoxious in that movie that I didn't want to replicate, but I wanted to be that powerful player. And so I started learning quickly. All right, I got to do sales. And do you guys remember where he's in that scene and he's in the movie, he's wearing this royal blue suit and a white shirt, and he's in front of his team. It was like 6 or 7 of those licensed agents at the time. And he's like, we're going to rebrand. We're going to be Stratton Oakmont. We're going to be, we've been here since Plymouth Rock was chiseled. And then he starts dialing and he starts closing all these leads in front of his team. Well, that vision was painted for me. Right there in that moment, when I saw that video, I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to smile and dial. I'm going to knock on doors. I'm going to be the ultimate salesperson. I'm going to learn how to master people at a high level so that my income can increase. And so I did. 2014, I jumped into the real estate space. And it was hard that year. But I did everything that I was supposed to do. I made the calls. I made the knocks. I did the open houses. And I started booking appointments. But there's one thing that I left out. And that was having the right coach or the right mentor in my space. I would show up to listing appointments and my mentor wouldn't show up. He would cancel last minute. I would book appointments and say, hey, we have an appointment this Saturday. And he would say, I have double booked. I got left on so many listing appointments in 2014 by myself because I didn't have the right coach and mentor there. And so for 12 months, I spun my wheels. For 12 months, I let go of the shake business that I was doing. For 12 months, I went all in on this real estate space, and no fruit was bared. Why was it? It was because I was not being led by the right type of people. And that's where mentorship comes into play. So for a lot of you out there, you might be doing the right activities. You actually might be doing the things that we're getting ready to talk about later in this call. You might be doing all of it, but are you being mentored? Are you being coached by someone who's been there, done that at a high level? Is that happening? And if it's not, it's probably that. And it's probably, you might be frustrated with, I'm not getting the listing signed, and I'm not getting the buyer signed, and I'm not getting leads coming in, and I have agents coming into my team and they're leaving. I have all these things that are taking place in my life. But the simple fact could be, you just might be missing proper mentorship, proper guidance from someone who's been there, done that at a high level, and is still doing it at a high level. So number one was get a mentor, get a coach. And if you're part of the winner's circle, you have a lot to choose from that are free of cost. I can't even begin to tell you, with close to 200 agents that we have in the group, I probably hear from three. Like consistently hear from three. I don't get text messages enough. I don't get phone calls enough. I don't get emails enough for people who are hungry, that want to grow and say, hey, how do we do this? Where do we grow? I'll teach it. I'll share it. I'll give you my experiences, but you got to want it bad enough. So the coaching and the mentorship is available. And so 2014 happened and it crashed and burned. And babe, if there's anything that I'm missing in the chat, just let me know. You can jump in. So 2014 takes place and nothing happens. I fall into depression Q4 of 2014. I'm sitting in my bed. I rack up $60,000 worth of credit card debt. I buy televisions, I buy clothes, I buy suits, I go get bottle service. I'm still single at this time. And as my wife likes to joke around, she calls that time in my life BC. So you guys know like Jesus, BC and AD and all that, except she calls that before cherish. It's not before Christ, it's before cherish. And we don't talk about BC. But just for story purposes, we're going to talk about BC today. We don't talk about that. Yeah. And so I'm doing all that bottle service. I'm going out, I'm spending all the stupid money. 2014, I contemplate taking my life. 2015 rolls around and I get just a little breather of air. I run through all my savings. I max out all my credit cards. Real estate's not working out. I lost my entire Visalis business, my multi-level marketing business. And 2015 comes around. I get a lifeline. I get a piece of mail that comes in. It's from the Department of Corrections. And it says, Gabe, we are looking to hire again. Come back and get this job. And I was like, okay, great. So I go back. I go back to the job. I have a stable income again. I start developing my habits. I'm going to the gym every day after work. Weekends I have off. Within 5 months of being there, I realized the opportunity that I left back with real estate and back with Visalis. I thought to myself, is this it? And I remember the day it happened. I'm sitting at the office. 5 months go by and I'm sitting in the cubicle, collecting my paycheck, waiting for the next opportunity for there to be a job opening so that I can earn $100 more per month. Let me say that one more time. I was waiting for for a position to open up I could apply for so that I could earn $100 more per month, from $3,600 to $3,700. $100 more per month I wanted to earn. And I'm sitting in this cubicle and I'm listening to this lady. I don't even know if she's still alive because she was really old at that time. And she told me, Gabe, I can't wait till retire. I have one more year left. She's 60, 70 years old, full of wrinkles. She's like that beautiful old lady grandma kind of look. You know, she has all of her jewelry, all the pearls. She sprays too much perfume. Like she has that pretty look to her. Very sweet young old lady. And she's telling me she has one more year until she retires. And in that moment, In that instant, I remember thinking to myself, if I don't change, nothing's going to change, and I'm going to end up in her position one day. I'm going to fight for a $100 pay raise every 3 years. I'm going to sit here and hate myself for 8 hours. I'm going to clock in and clock out and dislike myself, fall into depression, and fall into this rat race that I can't get out of, this hamster wheel. And so in that instance, I told myself, no. I pushed the chair back. I went to my superior officer, or the title, I forgot the title, the person that was overseeing my department. And I said, do I need to give you a 2-week notice in order to resign? And there was this thing inside of me that lit up like a Christmas tree. She said, no. I went and got everything signed. I left the prison as an employee. I left the prison, walked outside. I looked up, I saw my discharge paperwork, and I thought to myself, crap, what did I just do? I got rid of my 401k. I got rid of my health benefits. I got rid of my steady paycheck. It is freaking game time. It is on, which is point number 2. Hunger. I wanted it bad enough. I wanted it bad enough. Some of you out here right now on this call, you're lacking hunger. You have the skill set, you have the support, you have the coach, you have the mentor. You're just not hungry enough. How many of you right now can look at yourself and say, my back's not up against the wall. My pain isn't big enough. The hunger isn't big enough. And for me, for a long time in my life, that hunger wasn't big enough. But finally, I had enough pain. Finally, I had enough leverage. I was exposed to this world where you could work as hard as you wanted to and earn as much money as you wanted to based on your effort. When you're exposed to a world of that, a life of that your effort is directly correlated to the amount of money you're going to earn, your skill set is directly correlated to the amount of money you're going to earn. When you're involved and exposed to an industry, when you're around people who are making $2 million purchases, $5 million purchases, who have a $500,000 line of credit, when you're exposed to that kind of world, it is hard to go back to the normal life. And I had enough leverage, I had enough pain, I had enough vision to get out there and say, I want that. I deserve bigger and better than that. I'm willing to sacrifice the now for the later. I'm willing to sacrifice who I am now for the potential that I see in the future. And a lot of you out there, you've gotten dormant. A lot of you, right? I'm talking to a couple of you. I don't know who, but I'm talking to a couple of you right now. A lot of you allowed that lion, allowed that ferocity to just leave you. What happened? You allowed this big old lion that was inside of you to become this poodle who was quiet and became tamed, who didn't have a voice anymore, who didn't outspeak, and who didn't do these things. What happened to that person? We got to wake that person back up. So point number 2 is you got to develop the hunger. You got to develop the hunger. And I get a question all the time, Gabe, how do we develop the hunger? I can't get myself to move. I took notes on this earlier, and I want to share this with you. There are 3 reasons why people don't do something. 3 reasons. Number 1, the reason people don't do anything is because they don't know how to get it. They don't know how to get it. Point number 1, people don't do something because they don't know how to get it. And I have a feeling on this call right here, that's probably little to none of you. Very few to none of you. None of you should have the excuse of, I don't know how to get what I want. There's too many examples around you of people who are investing money, who are closing multi-million-dollar deals, who are closing 5-7 units per month, who are earning $100,000 a month in commissions. I average about $40,000 to $50,000 a month in commissions. And let me tell you, when you start earning that type of money, the problems that you once had aren't so big anymore. You can now contribute to your church. You now can give to your mom. You now can give to your dad. You now can sit there and say, we don't have to sacrifice anymore. It's not later. It's happening now, mom. It's happening now, dad. You can now turn around to your children and say, don't worry. That thing that we used to look at the price tag at, we're not having to look at the price tag anymore. Here you go. We swipe without looking. And I'm sure a lot of you are out there right now want that type of lifestyle. And I'm telling you, point number 1, don't know how to get it. That's none of you. Probably little to none of you because there's too many examples in front of you. Reason number 2, people don't do anything. That's because they know how to get it. They just can't get themselves to move. You know how to get it. You just can't get yourself to move. And I know this struck a chord with a lot of you. How many of you out there, you know what you want, you know how to get it, you have the skills to pull it off, but you just can't seem to get yourself to move. There's a roadblock. Something's always getting in your way. It's a mental thing. Every morning when you want to get out of bed, it's a struggle. Every day when you have to go make the follow-up calls and all that, you look at it like a task. And every time you're supposed to go door knocking and submit your numbers to your coach and your mentor, you didn't do it. How many of you out there are struggling with that? I'm sure it's a lot of you. That was also me. And it still is me to these days at certain occasions. Let me tell you why. The reason, and the last reason before I get into why that is, number 3, you don't have the skill set. The reason people don't go do something is because they don't have the skill set. Number 1, they don't know how to do it, which is not you. Number 2, they don't have the skill set. Or number 3, they just can't get themselves to move. And see, when you're complacent, when you're hanging around a bunch of people who don't have big visions, when you're hanging around a bunch of people who make excuses and aren't moving and shaking and doing all that stuff, it gets easy to lose sight of what you wanted. It gets easy to fall into complacency. It gets easy to forget that lion that was inside of you and to tame it down and to be that little poodle that they want you to be. But you have to change the environment. So how do we do that? How do we get ourselves to move? How do you develop that hunger? How do you wake that thing back up again? There's 2 ways you can do it. Write this down. We're on point number 2 about hunger. How do you make it happen? Number 1, you have to have a vision that is so compelling, so great that it pulls you forward every day. I want you guys to drop it in the chat down below. How many of you here today have a vision board and have your top goals that you want to achieve for the year, and you've had that since December or before of last year for 2024? Drop it in the chat. Let's be honest. How many of you before 2024 made a vision board and created your top 10 goals for 2024? Let me see here. Drop it in the chat. Trina Rocio says yes. Nancy says me. Anaisa says me. Edie says yes. Me, yes. We have about 7 out of everyone that's in this call today. Before that, there's 2 ways to redevelop that hunger and get that hunger back inside of you. Number 1 is you have to have a compelling future. The second way, which is the most effective way, which is the most dangerous way, the second way to develop that hunger is pain. You have to have your back against that wall. You have to make sure that you have a fire under your butt, that if this does not work out, you will either die, drown, not make it, not survive. That's the level of pain you have to have. Do you have that pain? Gabe, what was your pain in 2014? I'm glad you guys asked. I'll go ahead and tell you. Here's my hunger. When I was sitting at that job back in the office and I was listening to that lady complain, my life was going good. My life was good. My life was good. But my mom's life wasn't good. My sister's life wasn't good. This is prior to me meeting Cherish and getting married, like 2 years prior. Their life was, that same year I met her, 2015. 6 months. But my mom's life wasn't good. My grandmother's life wasn't good. My father's life wasn't good. Let me tell you what it looked like back then. After we ended up losing our home and getting kicked out from by the sheriffs and being evicted from our property, we had to pack up all of our stuff in a 5-bedroom home, 4,000 square feet property in one of the most desirable places in South San Diego. We had to pack everything up, get rid of all of it, and we moved into my uncle's home. I slept on a couch for 6 to 9 months in the garage. My mother and my sister shared a bedroom downstairs together. Mind you, my mom was probably 45 years of age at that time, 40 years of age, having to, she had to tuck her tail in between her legs, tell her kids, pack up your stuff. This is where I had gaming nights. My friends from high school came over. We had beer pong in the back. Like, this was a normal house where we actually did things, birthday parties and carne asadas. And my mother had to look at us and say, pack everything up. And now I'm in a garage on a sofa. No money. You know what? You want to know what dinner looked like the next few years? It looked like pasta and sauce. And that was it. And some romaine lettuce. That was it. That was dinner for years because my mother couldn't afford more. I don't know how she did it, but let me tell you something. God got a hold of my life in 2015, and he painted a vision so grand. He actually gave me a gift. This is the gift that God gave me. God gave me a gift to be able to look back at my life and see all the blessings that I had and focus on what I did have, not what I didn't, and be grateful for them. Had I not had that gift of looking back, I wouldn't be here today because I wouldn't have had the hunger to go after it. And you want to know what God showed me? This is what God showed me. He said, you have a beautiful mother who got married the right way in church. She had you and your sister. Her husband cheated on her. She divorced. She went and worked her butt off 3 jobs, bought a house for you guys so that you could stop living in a 1-bedroom apartment like you did your whole life. The house got taken away. She's now fighting for you guys to get another home. She's giving you the car. She bought you the car with her credit and her income, which I don't even know how she afforded it. She's buying you your clothes, giving you money to go on vacation. She's doing everything for you. When's it her turn to relax? Oof. When does she get to enjoy the fruits of her labor? Come on. I'm talking to somebody out there right now. When does she get to go ahead and relax and say, wow, I finally get to swipe my credit card without having to look at the price tag? Who am I talking to out there? I know I'm talking to somebody. And so finally, I got that pain inside of my heart. And I told myself, I refuse to live the rest of my life. And I don't give that woman everything she deserves. She didn't party. She didn't go to TJ. She didn't bring a bunch of men home. She didn't go out drinking every night. She didn't, my mom could watch my son and my daughter. She didn't do that. You know what she did? She buckled down, worked 3 jobs, sacrificed her entire youth. Her entire youth. Some of us can't even sacrifice a weekend. Come on, somebody. Some of us can't even sacrifice a couple of weeks. Some of us can't even go a whole day without touching our social media. We can't sacrifice a few things, but our moms, our grandmothers, our people before us, they gave up everything for us to be here today in the greatest country in the world, with the greatest opportunity at our fingertips right now, with the real estate market shifting, with investments taking place and all these things that could happen. We have the greatest opportunity, and yet we can't sacrifice just a little. And my mother sacrificed her entire youth, never getting remarried, never dating, never allowing me to see that type of lifestyle. And all she knew was, I need to provide for my kids. And I told myself, when I will never allow this woman to get laid to rest one day and never experience the joy of life. And that was my pain. My pain was, how do I pay off her debt? My pain was, how do I get her to live? My pain was, how do I get her to vacation? My pain was, how do I get her to live and experience life the way it should be lived? Because I know for a fact, if my mother were to pass away and I never got to do that for her, I never got to buy her a house, I never got to pay off her debt, she never got to travel to Europe. If I did that one day and she died, the amount of regret would hold me down so heavy that I don't even know if I could live at that point. Because time's over. Time is up. You don't get a second chance once it's gone. So I told myself it's not going to happen. So point number 2 for all of you today is hunger. You got to get hungry again. You got to want it bad enough. You got to want it more than, and you got to make sure you cut out all the distractions. You got to make sure that these things don't exist anymore. What's holding you back? You want to know what's holding a lot of you back? Living in the past. Do you want to know what's holding you back? Thinking about the future. Do you want to know what's holding you back? Thinking about what they're going to think about when you make that post, when you knock on that door, when you don't show up to that party. You know what's holding you back? You want to know why? Because living in the past causes depression. Living in the future causes anxiety. Constantly trying to please everyone leads to unfulfilling life. I'll say that again. If you're constantly living in the past, you are depressed. If you're constantly living in the future, you are anxious. And if you're constantly trying to live in the present while you're pleasing everyone else, you'll never live a fulfilled life. You have to remember, the past does not exist. The past does not exist. The past does not exist until you think about it. The future does not exist until you think about it. What should we learn from our past? The mistakes and the lessons, but we don't live there. We should be excited about our future. We don't live there. Why do you think they call the present? Because it's truly a gift to be now here in the moment. Not constantly thinking about the home inspection report that has to get back to you, or I didn't do that and I didn't do this. You want to save yourself from a lot of torture and a lot of misery? Stop living in the past. Stop living in the future. And so I got hungry about this thing and I decided that I wanted to go all in. And so I went home and I cleaned my room and I cleaned my car and I decided to start a new vision board for myself. And by the way, side note, this is not part of the presentation. This is not part of the training. But a lot of you out there need to go home, clean your cars, clean your rooms, and clean your houses. Your car, women, your closets are a direct reflection of what's going on up here. Let me say that one more time. Ladies, your closets are a direct reflection of what's going on up here. You guys can hide, make the bed look pretty, make the counter look pretty, make the kitchen look pretty. When I open that closet and I look in that trunk, it better look pretty. The reason is, scientifically speaking, that there's a study shown that when you have a clean car, clean environment, it promotes clean thoughts and allows you to think clearly. I need you guys to have a clean foundation. So make sure you guys are going home, cleaning cars, cleaning your house, and make sure your work environment and living environment is clean. Someone said facts. Absolutely, Jacqueline. And so now I leave the prison as an ex-employee, not as a resident there, but I leave the prison and I go back home and I start thinking about a plan and I start working my butt off. And now this is where I'm going to transition into the presentation. We would catch up on some of these. Drop it in the chat. How many of you guys know of somebody that should be here in this training today, but they're not here? How many of you guys know of someone that should have been here, but they're not here today? And you wish they would have heard this. You wish they would have done that. You guys who here knows of someone they wish they would have brought, they would have sent an invitation to. Let me share my screen 1 second. My love, let me know if this is on. You see that, babe? Yeah. Okay. Trina says, I almost missed it. There we go. Okay. So let me tell you through my journey what I learned. We talked about the beginning. Now let's talk about now. The 5 characteristics of a top performing agent. Number 1, top performing agents care about the way they dress. Top performing agents care about the way they dress. Now, there was a study that was done at a university a few years ago, more than a few years ago, over like 10 years ago. And the study was called In-Clothes Cognition. In-Clothes Cognition is the study of how clothes make you feel. Drop it in the chat. How many of you have gone shopping before, put on an outfit, and you felt like money, like you felt good? You were probably in the dressing room a little too long, feeling yourself, taking pictures, looking at the waist, the side, fellas. We were standing tall, looking at our biceps, like, damn, we look good in this shirt. Drop it in the chat. How many of you all have ever put something on and it made you feel really good? Like you went to an event, you're like, man, this feels great. Brenda says facts. Rocio says yes. Flora says yes. Realtors, Greg says, yep, yes. Okay. How many of you put something on and you just felt like poop? It killed your excitement. It killed your motivation. You didn't feel good about yourself anymore. How many of you have put an outfit on or clothes and you're like, ugh, something's off today? And it was the clothes. You didn't like the way they fit on your body. They were too loose, too tight, too faded, too bold in colors. And you're like, this just isn't it. How many of you ever had that experience where you put something on and it closed it? Not going anymore. 100% yes. Relate. Marbella says yes, all the time. I get rid of those clothes, by the way, just so you guys know. The moment something starts to make me feel yucky or icky or disgusting or bad or fat or ugly, and the moment something starts to make me feel that way, I throw it away. That's my 2 cents. Donation time. Exactly. We give it to, who do we give it to? What's the name of the nonprofit? AMVETS. We give it to AMVETS. Shout out to all of our military personnel, past and present. We respect and honor you. Thank you. Okay. Caring about dress. So the study of In-Clothes Cognition says this. I want you guys to listen to this. Here was the study of In-Clothes Cognition. What they ended up doing was they took 2 groups of students, Group A and Group B. And then with Group A, they gave them a white lab coat. And they told Group A, the white lab coat, this lab coat that we're giving you is a physician's and doctor's lab coat. Group B didn't get the lab coat. They just sat down in the room. And both Group A and Group B, they both gave them exercises to perform. We want you to perform the same exact exercises. The only difference is you have a white lab coat and you don't. And here was the findings from that study of enclosed cognition. They found that the group who had the doctor's lab coat outperformed the group who did not have the lab coat by almost 70%, 7 times better at analysis, 7 times better at difficult work, 7 times better at reading comprehension, 7 times better. And the only difference was they had a white lab coat. The question is, why? Why is that so effective? Why is it that putting on a lab coat did it? And so they asked that question to group A. Hey, you did really well. What was it that happened? And the answers were astonishing. They were incredible, what they said. The students said that when they put the lab coat on, the doctor's lab coat, they felt important and they felt smart. Listen to me carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to me carefully, Winner's Circle. How you dress directly impacts how you feel. How you feel directly impacts how you perform. How you perform directly impacts what you get. Let me say that one more time. How you dress dictates how you feel. How you feel determines your performance, and your performance ultimately dictates what you get in life. You're not making as much money as you want, perform differently. You want to perform differently, feel better. You want to feel better? One of the ways to do that is changing your clothes. You dress like a dork, you're going to act like a dork. You dress in clothes that make you feel out of shape, then you're going to feel and show up out of shape. But when you show up and you have those clothes and you just feel amazing, it just changes something inside of you and you perform better. Jacqueline, can you, if she's still here, Jacqueline, true or true? Dressing, oh, there we go. Absolutely. I was waiting for Jacqueline to jump in because every time you see Jacqueline, she's on point. And the reason she does it, I'm sure because it has a lot to do with how she feels. And when she looks like $1 million listing agent, she can go out there, she can walk, she can earn it, she can, just her presence alone demands respect. And I'm sure Jacqueline can agree with that. So enclosed cognition is a study of how clothes make you feel. I'll prove it to you. Ready? I'll prove it to you. What is Superman's name when he's not dressed up as Superman? What is it? Clark Kent. Okay, Clark Kent. Clark Kent. So if you watch any movie, thank you, Trina. If you watch any Superman movie, Superman, he's walking down the street. There's a problem that arises. Clark Kent, there's a problem that arises. Someone's yelling and someone's screaming. The building's on fire, and Clark Kent's walking down the street. In the movie Superman, one of the early films, Clark Kent starts walking away from the burning building. Why does Clark Kent walk away from the burning building? Can someone tell me why? Open the mic or drop it in the chat. Why is Clark Kent walking away from a burning building, walking away from crime?
Because he's not dressed as Superman.
He's not Superman. And what did he do? What did he walk into and what did he do? This man walks into a telephone booth, depending on which movie you watched, into a telephone booth. He removes his Clark Kent clothes, yes, and then he reveals his Superman attire. Let me ask everyone a question. Did Clark Kent go into some super hyperbolic chamber? Did he attach some sort of technology? Did he put on a suit like Iron Man? Did he do any of that? Drop it in the chat. Did he do anything that altered who he was? Did he put on handcuffs or lasers? Did he put on a mask? Did he put on a jet suit? No. No. No, 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 no. Listen carefully. Clark Kent went into the telephone booth. He took off his clothes, revealed his Superman outfit with a cape, and then he went to work. Then he showed up for his appointment. Then he went and showed up and closed the deal. Come on, somebody. I'm talking to someone here today. There's someone out here in the audience today that doesn't dress up every day, that doesn't show up every day, and doesn't do their best every day in their attire. Come on, I'm talking to somebody out there. Who is it? Who is it? You don't have to reveal it. It's okay. Clark Kent shows up dressed up every time. And you want to know why? Because of enclosed cognition, the study of how clothes make you feel. Because he feels like the superhero, because now he can go perform. He dresses for the occasion. How many of you out there right now, just by after this one section right here, know you got some changing to do, literally and metaphorically? You got to go back home and change your clothes and put on a suit and look better. Come on. How many of you know? How many of you out there right now know you have to make a change? Literally and figuratively. And Anaisa says yes. Change and be consistent. Angelica says yes. I love it, Angelica. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about clothing for a second. Color psychology. I want you guys to understand this. It's not only that you dress up, it's also the colors that you're wearing. So here's a color chart. If you guys are looking at the screen, I want you guys to take a look at it briefly. But every color represents an emotion, represents feeling. This is called the psychology of color. There's a reason why McDonald's has red and yellow. There's a reason why stop signs are red. There's a reason why you have certain colors associated with certain brands. For example, what color is Amazon's logo and their checkout button? Come on, guys. What color is Amazon and their checkout button? What is it? Drop it in the chat. Someone says blue. Someone says yellow. Someone go on Amazon.
Yellow.
From what I remember, it's yellow and orange, depending on what page you're looking at. And yeah, that's what I thought, Christy, was orange. Yeah. Okay. What does yellow and what does orange represent? Someone look at the chart down below. Orange represents optimism, uplifting, rejuvenating, friendliness, fun. Yellow represents happiness, enthusiasm, friendliness, optimism, confidence. Let me say that again. Amazon did not accidentally choose the button orange. They did not accidentally choose their logo to be orange. Everything is intentional. Everything is intentional. Can someone tell me why McDonald's is red and yellow? Desire. What is red? Desire. What is yellow? Happiness. Why do they call it the happy meal? They're subconsciously speaking to you through their colors. The happy meal is red and yellow. You get the little box with the little handles. So unless you want to be perceived as desired and happy and hungry, then wear red and yellow, like Ronald McDonald. But if not, you should probably choose colors that are a little more professional, a little more powerful. Can someone tell me what does white represent? Drop it in the chat. What does white represent? When you think of white, what do you think of? What emotions and what feelings? Trying to teach you guys something here today. Peace. Anaisa says peace. Absolutely. Clean. Yes, absolutely. Cherish says clean. Purity. What color are doctors' lab coats? They're white. Are they red? Could you imagine if you walk into your doctor's office and he walks into the appointment and he's wearing a red lab coat? Honest question. What would you think if he walked in there wearing a red lab coat? Instead of evil devil, that's scary. Imagine that right now. Okay, let me ask you another question. What if you walked in there wearing a purple lab coat? What would you think then? And then he wore a purple lab coat, but the lapel, the buttons were gold. Like it was purple with gold. What would you guys think? What's that, Greg?
Magician. This guy's a wizard.
He's a wizard. It would be weird. And when you look at your doctor, you want to think peace, tranquility, trust. What does blue represent? What does blue represent? And we have 9 minutes. We'll wrap it up here. What does blue represent? Drop it in the chat. What does blue represent when you think of blue? Think of like a navy blue, dark blue. What kind of feeling and emotion is associated with that? She says calmness, trust.
The president.
Trust. Yes. You know where I'm going with it. So you have white, which is peace, trustworthiness. You have blue, which is powerful, trust, calmness. And then you have red, which is energy, war, danger, strength, power, determination. Can someone tell me what colors are the United States flag? Red, white, and blue. Do you think that's on accident? Do you think that they did not sit down beforehand and say intentionally, this is how we want to be represented? I don't know about you, but I'll tell you this. Whenever I travel, outside of the United States, which is very rarely, and I see a United States flag flying in the air, something over my body just thinks automatic peace, calmness, safety. I feel safe. Anyone else? And think about other flags. Think about whose flag is green and black. There's a flag that's green, red, and black. I forgot whose that is. Can you guys tell me, how does green, red, and black make you feel when you're looking at a flag? How does green, red, and black make you feel? Open the chat. And baby, if you can look into that, which flags are green, red, and black? I know there's one.
It's Syria.
Syria?
There's Syria.
That's Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Jamaica, Syria. How does it make you feel? Open the chat. Go ahead. Drop it in the chat. How does it make you feel, team? Green, red, and black. What about red and black as a flag? What about just red and black together? What kind of emotion and feeling does that give you?
Powerful.
So what I want you guys to think about now is those things. Now look at this. Take a look at your screen. What you wear says more about you than what you do. There you go, Greg. Palestine. What you wear says more about you than what you do. We all know who this was. I think this was at number 43, 44. No, it was 43, wasn't it? Barack Obama. And look at Barack Obama on the left and look at him on the right. Could you imagine if we're getting in, we're fighting with the Middle East and he comes out to address all of America and he's wearing a Nike t-shirt and a backwards hat? Could you imagine that? So this is why it's important for you guys to dress professionally, and I want you guys to choose colors representing. This is why the presidents wear dark navy blue suits, black suits, white t-shirts, baby blue t-shirts, and red, yellow, and blue ties. Let me say that one more time. The only color combination you'll ever see presidents wearing are navy blue suits and black suits. Those are the only two. They don't wear pinstripe suits. They don't wear checkered suits. They don't wear suits with loud, bold patterns on them. There's a reason why they don't do it. They wear white t-shirts underneath their blue and black suits. Why? Because white represents purity and trust. And then the tie. Democratic Party, they wear blue ties. The Republican Party, they wear red ties. Nonetheless, it's still a blue suit, white shirt, red or blue tie. Why is that? Because it represents power. And so for men, we can look at any presidential candidates for power inspiration. You don't see them wearing pink button-up shirts, yellow button-up shirts. You don't see presidents doing that. White, very stark white. So think about this when you're thinking about your for sale sign, open house sign. I thought about this in my real estate journey. Next is communication. So when I went off and I started branding myself, I got brand new for sale signs, open house signs. And if you look at my early branding, all of my branding was blue suit, white shirt, red tie. My signs were red. My open house signs were red. Everything was blue, red, and white. Because I needed, as a young Mexican, 25, 26 years old in real estate, just starting off in 2013, 14, I needed to break through the market. I needed to make sure that when people saw my colors, subconsciously they thought to themselves, there's something about this red, white, and blue that's familial. It's familiar. What is it? Well, yeah, it just happens to be the same color of the flags that you've been saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the last 30 years in school. So I had to tap into the subconscious. Number two, communication. This is really important. We're in the last 4 minutes here. We'll end before 11. But communication. There are three different, this is characteristics of a top performing agent. Communication. How many of you are practicing communication? How many of you are learning how to articulate your thoughts? How many of you are enunciating your words while you're speaking? How many of you are learning how to use voice inflections to make points? How many of you are knowing when to upswing, when to downswing? When to just to be monotone to deliver a message with no emotion? These are all important characteristics of a top performing agent. Why? Because you deal with 4 different personality types, D, I, S, and C. And not every single one of these people want to be spoken to the same exact way. So you have to know that what you say, how you say it is very important, but also the congruency of your body and what it's doing while you're communicating. Did you know that 55% of someone's willingness to buy say yes to you, or sign with you has nothing to do with the words that you say and nothing to do with how you say it. Over half a person's decision on whether or not they say yes to you or buy into you, 55% of the decision is based on nonverbal communication. Let me say that one more time. This is so important. I need you guys to pick this up. 55% of the sellers you are talking to, 55% of that person's decision, 55% of the buyer's decision, 55% of the open house leads you're talking to at the open house, 55% of their decision of whether or not to answer your call, give you their number, sign the contract, has nothing to do with the words that you're saying and how you're saying the words. It has to do with nonverbal communication. Your body language. Is your body language in congruency with what you're saying and how you're saying it? 38% has to do with your tonality, so how you're saying your words, and 7% are the actual words themselves. So when you're at a listing presentation and people always say, what's the script? What's the presentation? What's the script? What are the words that you say? I don't train people on the words to say. I train sales professionals on how to say the words and what your mannerisms should be doing at the presentation table. Because we know through psychology that 93% of a person's decision has to do with what you're doing with your body and how you're saying the words. 7% of a person's decision is weighted on the words only. Yet we spend so much time script practicing and not enough time tonality practicing, body language practicing. Come on, somebody. We got 2 minutes to take a screenshot of this. We have pitch, volume, pace, and tonality. Those are the elements of vocal variety. Here are some ideas on how to improve your speaking. Accountability. Top performing trait number 3. Top performing agents are accountable to themselves and they're accountable to their calendar. They are accountable to their clients. They're accountable to their leaders and coaches. They have a high level of accountability. Number 4, they're confident. Confidence comes from the way that you stand, the way that you dress. The number one way to increase your confidence, and as a newer agent in 2015, when I was getting started, the number one way to create confidence, aside from how you're dressing, aside from how you're speaking, is product knowledge. I went out there and I learned contracts. I went out there and I learned terminology. I was reading books, listening to YouTube videos on anything that had to do with real estate. And characteristic number 5 is they are coachable. This is Tim Grover, the coach for Michael Jordan. Wayne Gretzky's coach. This is Serena Williams' coach. Tom Brady's coach. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone that I just showed you here has a coach. Do you? So today, what did you learn? If at first you don't succeed trying to do what you're doing, do what your coach is telling you to do. And if you don't have a coach, go get one. I'm going to pause there for a moment. The last 2 minutes that we have. Going to open up for any questions or thoughts before we wrap up. And yes, this recording will be sent out to all of you with the PowerPoint slide. Any thoughts or questions, team, before we wrap up? Go ahead. These last 2 minutes are yours.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you coaching one-on-one? Like,
What was that?
Do you coach like personally, like for accountability and stuff like that?
I don't coach on accountability. I coach on skills. That's my thing. So
Okay.
That's always been my style of coaching, just so you guys all know. I'm not the guy that's going to yell at you every single day to get the job done. I'm the guy that's going to say, bring the work to me. And let me see what you've done and let's work through it together. That's my style. But Brenda, yeah, if you want to get on the calendar, let's do it. Absolutely. Okay. Let's start identifying the areas of your business that need help and we'll work on that together. Absolutely. Okay. So send me a message afterwards.
Okay.
You're welcome, Ariel. Thank you for that. What else do we have? You're welcome, Maggie. You're welcome, Amber. You're welcome, Marbella. Any final thoughts or questions, team? We're at the 11 mark. Answer 1 or 2 more thoughts. Okay. That was so good. You're welcome, Jacqueline. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback on that. Okay, team, I'm going to stop the recording, but just keep in mind,